as long as I voted in the last election, I was okay to vote in this election. I should add that in the last election, I voted Green Party. And what I found out was in order to vote in this election, you had to switch parties to either be a registered Republican or Democrat by October of last year. So, because by October 2015.
So they told me, your mind in December, you were out.
Yeah, well, or, if you had just moved to New York and say you just moved to New York in January or something, you weren't allowed to vote then because you had to register as a Republican or Democrat by October of 2015 in order to be allowed to vote now. But what's messed up about that is the actual rules of voting say that you had to register to vote 30 days in advance, which in theory should mean that as long as you register to vote by March 19th, you should have been allowed to vote. But New York primaries are closed. So in New York, you not only had to register, but you had to be a member of either the Democrat or Republican parties, or you were not allowed to vote. So that ruled me out right there.
No, that is really unfair. You figure some kid who just turned 18 and
yeah, that's right.
January, February, or March, or getting ready to vote, and now he can't vote because he didn't vote in the last election? Well, when's the first election he can vote?
And even if you registered in March, if you didn't register as a party member in only the Republican or Democrat parties. So if you were registered in any other party as an independent, Green Party, Libertarian, you were not allowed to vote. And and you know how that really skewed it because Sorry?
I said, is this to make room for all the dead voters that they take into account for, or?
Well, I think and this isn't just me speculating, but I think it's deliberately intended to hurt certain candidates because, I think a lot of independents could have gone for either Bernie Sanders or Donald Trump. But certainly you had a lot of other parties like working families parties who there is a socialist party. Those voters may have gone for Bernie Sanders. But the way the laws are written in New York, they weren't allowed to vote at all. So, they were just totally excluded. So obviously Sorry?
I think it was between 80 and 120,000 voters were purged for Sanders. In Brooklyn?
Yeah, there were. They're now saying as many as 100. Well, two things happened in New York. So you had people who were registered to vote but weren't registered in one of the two parties that were allowed to vote, who just couldn't vote, and that number may be as high as 3 million. 3 million New Yorkers.
8 million. I thought 120 was too much.
But in certain counties like Kings County, which is Brooklyn, they're saying now that the number may be as high as 150,000 voters who may have just been purged off the Democrat rolls. And that they're saying Brooklyn was a stronghold for Bernie. Obviously, all the young hipsters, right? And that's who Bernie's people are.
He's
mostly young.
Isn't he from Brooklyn?
Yes, he is. Yeah, Bernie was born in Brooklyn. So, but it's kind of funny that 150,000 people get purged. Coincidentally, most of them from Brooklyn. I find that kind of odd,
And Hillary won it for the Democrat, right?
Hillary won, even though Bernie actually won most of the counties in New York. But Hillary was declared the winner.
Look, I'm not for either one of them, but it's wrong. I mean, that's just wrong. At least, I might not agree with your politics, but I agree with your rights. And a lot of you Democrats got cheated, man.
Well, that's the thing. You had to be registered as a Republican or a Democrat. Do you feel that at this point that's something that should be changed?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, yeah, and again, that's only a New York thing, because not every state is like that. And I think that actually gets us into a problem, which, Dean and you and I have spoken before, and that this is affecting both parties. The fact that there aren't any set rules nationwide, states can do whatever they want. I'll tell you what, we spoke before about what happened with Arizona with the number of fiascos there where they were calling Hillary before the polls had even closed. You had, again, a number of people who were kicked off rolls. You had polling sites that for some reason were evacuated and people were just told to leave for no reason. But then you have states like Colorado, and in Colorado, it was the Republicans that were up to some shenanigans. Colorado and Wyoming and North Dakota are three states where basically in Colorado what happened was when people went to vote in the primaries, they were not allowed to vote for any candidate. You could only pick delegates. And in Colorado, Wyoming, and North Dakota, on the first round of votes, when it goes to the convention, the delegates can vote for whomever they want. They don't even have to honor what the people of Colorado wanted, which doesn't really matter since the people of Colorado didn't actually get to vote for any candidate at all.
Does Bernie have a shot at this point? That's what I want to know from our two political
technically, yes.
Geniuses.
No, technically, yes. If you're just going by numbers, he can still win. But, if we're going to be, and therein lies the problem. If we're going to be cheating and all the rest of the primaries, like it's happened already, I mean.
Yeah, flipping coins, doing coin tosses, giving super delegates when he's already won. I mean, that's ridiculous. And then what Cruz was doing in Colorado, Cruz was talking to all the delegate guys. Trump didn't know. Trump was talking to the people. Trump won the popular vote, and Cruz got all the delegates. It's not supposed to work that way.
And that's because, again, in Colorado, the people couldn't actually vote for a candidate. All they could do was vote for a delegate, but the delegates have the right in Colorado to vote for anybody they want, which basically means your vote means nothing then, really. And, you brought up the super delegates. Now, the Republican Party does not have super delegates, but something funny happened in Louisiana. In Louisiana, now this, again, I am not a fan of Trump. I don't like Donald Trump at all. But in Louisiana, I believe it ended up being 41% Trump, 37% Cruz. Yet for some reason, both candidates got 18 delegates. Which to me, I'm like, no, at least it should have been proportional. Donald Trump did win. But so why did they both get 18 delegates? But then Marco Rubio's name was still on the ballot in Louisiana. So Marco Rubio, a guy who's not even in the race anymore, got 5 delegates. Now they're saying, well, we're going to give those 5 delegates to Cruz. And I'm saying, but why? Like, why?
And meanwhile, what did Rubio do last week? He endorsed Trump.
And yet his delegates are now going to Cruz. And it gets even better because it turns out Louisiana, for some reason, has another 5 delegates that weren't part of those numbers. They weren't the numbers divided up between Cruz, Trump, or Rubio. There's another 5 delegates that for some reason Louisiana gets. And they're saying those delegates are totally unbound and, like Colorado, can vote for whomever they want in the first round of the convention. And they're again saying they're likely to go to Cruz. And again, I ask, says who? Why? Who decides this?
Yeah, there was some. There was someone else who said that. I think. I'm going to skip it. I'm not going to be sure on it. But it's really insane, and especially now with Rubio backing Trump after all this, after he tag teamed with Cruz to take on Trump, and then and now he backs him up and doesn't even give him.
He wants to be on that ticket. He wants to be a vice president. Seriously, that's.
He's probably a cabinet job. He's probably shooting for a cabinet job.
Right.
Which would he'd make history. He'd be the first Latin American vice president, because that's what he's shooting for. Which makes me say, which brings to the next thing, could there be a Cruz Kasich ticket? Is this possible?
Why Kasich is still in the race?
Okay.
Because numerically, even though, I mean, I'm not a Republican, but if I were, I would prefer, I like Kasich, but numerically it doesn't work. I mean, he's only won a couple of states. How it doesn't numerically work. So why is he still in the race unless what I'm thinking is that they're planning to do something at the convention and nominate him? I mean, that's, I hate to play devil's advocate, but like, why is the guy still running? There's no way he can numerically win.
Yeah, he did make something that he was there to block Trump, but
then what happened with Trump?
Sorry?
I said, what happens with Trump? If the Republican Party say, you know what, we don't really care, we want to go with our guy, that whole thing.
That is a good question.
Then
I mean,
what happens?
he could run as an independent if he wanted to.
Wow.
Yeah, he could pull a Ross Perot and, all those votes that could have gone to the Republican ticket if Hillary wins the nomination, and I got a feeling she will. She can do the same thing her husband did against Bush and Perot. Just, come in with the bigger amount of votes. But then again, you don't know how angry the Democrat voter is too. The one who switched over for Trump. Trump just might still win it. If people vote or write in his vote. You just don't know. This is one crazy election.
It really is. And it really raises issues of, how fair it is and voter disenfranchisement. And, what happened in Colorado, I mentioned that 2 other states, Wyoming and North Dakota, can have the right to do the same thing, where their delegates can go in on the first round vote for anyone they want. But that actually affects, believe it or not, even at the county level. Pennsylvania has their primary coming up. In Pennsylvania, there are 3 counties within Pennsylvania where the delegates can also do whatever they want. So I'm like, how does that work even within a state? That even at the county level, the counties can go against what the rest of the state wants. I mean, there's just...
If you want to run for president, you're going to have to get some guy who knows the delegates in each state.
Which,
ahead,
blatantly,
what have they done to this? It's crazy.
Well, this is not democracy. We got to stop kidding ourselves. And it's, it's sad that it's taking this issue to really get people angry on both sides. But this is not a democracy.
I can't be with the left anymore. I can't be angry with you anymore. I'm too mad at these politicians.
Absolutely. There's,
I don't want Sanders or I want to, but you know what? I just want the people vote for them to get a fair share.
Right.
Those fair share. Let your vote count, damn it.
And I mean, really, it should be one person, one vote, one day. That's it. One person, one vote, one day. But, that's the other thing I don't think a lot of people are aware about is that the parties are private. Because I think we think because it has to do with government that these are government regulations, but they're not. The parties are private, which is why they can set their own rules differently in every state and every county. I mean, it can, even be down to the local municipality level, but they're private, which first of all also means that we can sue them, which, that might be a way to go. Maybe we should, but also that means we can change it. I mean, there's got to be a way to just send a message to these 2 major parties that, we're sick of both of you.
And that brings us, as far as sickness, let's talk about some wellness. Let's change it up and talk about solar and wind energy.
Yay!
Happy combo.
I think wind would be the best way to start because going from politicians to wind, it's kind of a good
blowing a lot of hot
air. So I don't see anything sunny with them. But I see a lot of hot air with them.
Right.
Okay. Just last month, I saw on March 16th, last month, a site right off Long Beach, Long Island. They want to auction it off to 5 private companies to build 194 wind turbines that will generate enough electricity to maybe have for 300,000 houses. Okay. Now, that seems positive, right? That seems something good, but
question: do we know if those were American companies?
I got the names. There's Seabreeze Energy, Energy Management, Fisherman's Energy, EDF Renewable Energy, and off the Deepwater. I'm sorry, not off the Deepwater Wind Energy. So those 5 companies, private companies, the New York Power Authority wants to lease 11 miles by 26 nautical miles because they want to put 194 wind turbines there.
Cool.
I don't know.
Governor Cuomo is actually pushing, and this goes into, they're looking to close 2 nuclear facilities along Ontario. I guess Lake Ontario or up north, upstate New York. And personally, I'm very much in favor of closing down nuclear energy for many reasons. I mean, it's incredibly dangerous. I mean, we saw what happened at Fukushima, which the Japanese government has been insidiously lying about, telling people, oh, there's nothing to see here, and yet we're seeing dead fish washing across the Pacific Ocean. And but it's also it's not even good for security. I mean, that's a potential site that could be hit, God forbid. But it's a bad idea all around to have nuclear energy. So New York is looking to close 2 facilities, and I guess we're trying to supplement that. And they're looking to go 50% renewable by 2030. And they're actually offering incentives at the residential and commercial level.
Okay, but these wind turbine things, the windmills. I looked into it. I'm not being a naysayer, and I'm not going to shill for the thing either. I'm just looking at what happened in Wisconsin and in Altona, New York, in 2009. Okay, these windmills, they've been all right, they definitely kill birds. Birds fly into it. I got it. Okay. But a lot of the residents say they're noisy. They say that the blades do a lot of shadow and flickering all day long, and that they break and they fall down. Okay. Now we can laugh about it because this is stuff they're not reporting. But people have reported that they break, they fall down, they catch fire.
Right. Well, this is the thing. I went to it was April 20th to the April 22nd. I went to the Advanced Energy Conference at in New York City. And what are the biggest problems as far as in New York? They come up with all these excuses, but the bottom line is they just don't want to pay for it. And they say it's too expensive. But the fact that we have access to so much water around New York, and it really, at this point with technology, it is.
That's not
say it
hydro.
Again.
That's not wind. That's hydro. Water is hydro.
Well, what they're going to do is they're going to place it in the water.
Offshore, yeah.
Offshore, because there's not enough space.
What I said. 11 nautical miles off Long Beach. Okay,
yeah.
This would be
but
great.
You know what? My cousin's house was right on the beach when Hurricane Sandy hit, and it's gone. You know? What happens when you get a hurricane, the power of Sandy or Katrina, 11 miles off Long Beach, and they break those things, and those things come flying. A lot of people in tornadoes, how did they die by the water, air? How did that? Easy. That thing caught something and turned it into a weapon of mass destruction and threw it at your head and cut your head off.
Right. No, I mean, that's a serious issue, but also the amount of money that could be saved. I mean, because right now, all the electrical companies, which is only like one or two, they're raping the citizens. Because you're stuck with Con Ed. You're stuck with, what is it, the new one with LIPA, because LIPA is now, what's it called now?
CG.
Yeah, CG.
Yeah.
Correct. So
GST.
it's the utility bills are killing people. Right now, American citizens are suffering because of taxes and utility bills.
Well, also, if I may, there's another option, and that's the residential size, the tiny ones, and that's right now where they're offering incentives, because we've all seen the gigantic wind turbines, but there are also much smaller ones that are actually vertical. I'm sure you've seen them. They look like little spirally things that you can just put on the roof of your house, and that would lower your own personal energy bill. So, and same thing with solar panels. I mean, that's something you can put on your own home. But they do have the little tiny windmills, the little wind turbines that you can put on a home or on a business. I think Whole Foods uses mostly wind energy at this point. But they have addressed the issue of killing birds and bats somewhat, and it's one that the industry is looking into. But they have it to where it's on a motion sensor, so they go very slowly. But it's also motion censored, so if you had a big flock of birds heading to the windmill farms, that they would actually stop until the birds have passed and then start up again.
Well, what about
how many megawatts of power does a single house one at a small size create? I don't think it'd be much.
Well, usually, I mean, one thing you could do.
The big ones they want to put, 194 of them together would generate a yield of 700,000 megawatts, which would probably give electricity to 300 houses.
Wow.
But those are the big ones. Really, how much does I wouldn't, I just don't see it as a cost effective.
What about solar?
Although I'll tell you this, that wind energy is right now what's saving Texas, because oil, as you know, has been in a free fall for the last several months. The Saudis have been dropping the price of oil, which is absolutely killing Houston, thousands of layoffs, because Houston is sadly still very dependent on oil. But Texas is actually the largest wind producer in the country, producer wind energy. The second largest is Iowa. So in the areas where they have the wind farms, there aren't a lot of people, and and it's funny. I find it funny the things that people will complain about, like the flickering shadows. There was a town in Texas actually that had been very, very hard hit economically, and now they have one of the wind farms near them, which has generated so much income. They were able to completely rebuild schools, and I mean, they actually are making a ton of money now. And they complained about the little red lights on the windmills, and I'm like, really? You were able to totally rebuild your school system, and you're complaining about red lights? Never mind the fact that they're not even considering the alternative. When the alternative is poisoned water from fracking, I'll take flickering red lights any day over toxic water.
Well, look, they complained about people putting their clothes on the line,
right,
and using energy for that, and it worked. There's only 19 states that don't make it a crime for you to put your clothes on the line.
Really?
Or to collect rainwater. Did you hear that?
Wow. You live in Long Island, Mike, right? In 2012, residents of Great Neck, Long Island, were told they can no longer put their clothes on the clothesline or face a criminal offense and a $1,000 fine.
Wow.
You're the homeowner. You want to put your clothes on the line? It's a crime.
Well, you can't have a yard sale now either.
What?
Wow.
Yeah, you have to get a permit.
Yeah. And what? Come on, really? What's the most abundant energy out there? Solar. The sun. Right. It's out there. I see it all the time. It's pollution free. Oh, but God forbid you put it on your line, right? Because what are they? These are the three things. It obstructs the view of what? What are you doing on my property? What are you looking for? You looking to break in? It's unsightly. Who told you to look at my shorts?
Right.
Got nothing else to do. You look at my line. 3, this is the dumbest one. Possible strangulation. What are you doing? Freaking thing running into my clothesline? You want a clothesline? I'll give you the real clothesline. You won't get up from that either. But really, that's the complaint.
But what that also...
Right, that New Long Island can't put their line because of that. That's ridiculous.
But that is
ridiculous.
control. I mean, there was another town in the town in North Carolina, and they were against solar energy for some of them. It was likewise some ridiculous reasons. They were afraid, and I swear I am not making this up. A science teacher in the town was actually afraid that the solar panels were going to suck up all of the sun's energy. And I'm like, no, that's not how it works. Like, how on earth are you a science teacher?
They would have. They would have everywhere. Okay, they'd be freaking in charge of space.
But here's one thing, and one reason I think there is opposition to solar and wind, and I think that's municipalities and particularly utility companies don't want people to be able to be autonomous. Because even in some areas that do allow solar or even offer incentives for switching to solar, you still have to be on the grid. They don't want you to be off the grid. And there was a town in Florida where that became an issue, and the resident in this town in Florida has been fighting that. Why? Because they still want you to be metered so they can still charge you something. Because if you feasibly, if you had your own solar power and you had solar batteries that you could charge, you could be totally off grid, which is what they don't want.
I mean, really, before we have all these utilities, that's what our ancestors did. Yeah. It's not like it can't be done. But I looked into the negatives, and of all things, I found it on a site that promotes solar energy. It's called solarpoweristhefuture.com, and but they're I gotta say they're an honest site. They covered both sides of it. Now for the positive, of course, we said it's abundant, it's pollution free. Okay. The negatives, we'll start with is it cost effective? The expense, the cost. Okay. They said, and this is them, not me. These are the pros. They're saying it costs 5 to 11 times more expensive than coal, hydro, or nuclear sources. This is them. They said that the solar panels use expensive semiconductor material to generate electricity from the light, but they don't. The efficiency of the solar cells is only about 22%. They have gotten up to 43%, but they're too expensive to manufacture. So people won't buy them.
Well, and there are a couple factors. One is the size of your house, obviously, because the cost to install them, if you're doing the traditional ones, can be up to $20,000. Which, now think about it this way, $20,000 could be like buying a car. So if you financed it the same way, and in many states you would get a tax rebate for that amount of money. So if you finance it the way you do a car, your payments then would be tax deductible until it's paid off. And I know in Texas you are allowed to, it doesn't increase the value of your house for tax purposes. So at least you get that bonus there. But there are other, the other thing is that sadly the United States, we're very far behind technologies in other countries. And I know in Europe they've been working with solar tiles that would go on to you could put them on yourself, the way you would do, shingles on shingles on your roof. There's solar shingles rather. There's also a film you have in Europe that would just paste to your window, thereby making your window a solar panel. So, I think that's something that, like computers, when computers first came out, it will go down in cost as it starts getting used more.
Yeah, that's what they said, because they said there was too much time needed to maintain and clean these panels. Anything, debris, dust, bird poop, leaves, anything gets on it, and it dramatically decreases the efficiency of the solar panel, And they also said that most of these panels, I've seen them too in my area, they're just placed, stuck there on the roof. People aren't buying the system where they rotate the panel with the sun.
Yeah, I've seen those.
So you can power it. So right then and there, it's just not efficient enough to generate enough of that energy. The other thing, the other problem, of course, is the obvious one: the inconsistent availability of the sun. Yeah, we know it's out there, but we have this thing called night. We have inclement weather, eclipses, short days and winters. They got to build a way to store the sun's energy.
There are a couple of technological things there too. There actually is, as far as storing it, there is a company in California that is making solar cells capable of storing it. But in Germany, because Germany is right now 70% solar, and if I've been to Germany a few times, it is cold and dark most of the year. So what I actually found out is that they're doing two things that we could do, and again, it's just a matter that we don't yet have this technology widespread the way they do in Europe. But in Germany, they do have a solar panel that works on UV rays, not direct sun rays, which means if it is cold and overcast and gray outside, it will still work. And the second thing that Germany does is they supplement with wind. So on days when there's zero sun, they get wind energy from Denmark, and most of Denmark's wind energy is offshore, although they do have the land farms as well.
Well, in the end, the site suggests that it's going to take decades to come up with the right materials and effective methods, and that government and private industry needs to step up.
Yeah.
To invest time in machine, but we saw what happened with Solyndra. That didn't pan out too well.
Well, there's the Tesla. The Tesla company does have a storage solution. They're in testing it, but they said when it goes to market, it's only going to be $3,500. So you will be able to, in theory, be able to go off the grid because you'll be able to use the solar power, and that storage unit will store it for the nighttime.
In theory, but like Soledad said, where's the money? No, because you gotta look at it. We complain about
the municipality will let you.
We can complain about big oil, but in the end, check your pensions. It's all tied up in those big three.
And you heard it first, folks. So thank you very much for checking us today. Thank you, Dean. Thank you, Soledad. I'm Seven, and you're watching POLITIRIXX. Check us next week, where you will get your political and also social commentary. See you next week, folks.
Look at that power online.
I know, right? There's never a shortage of stuff. They can talk all day.